I made a grievous error in one of my holiday lights purchases last year. I bought the kind, first of all, it doesn't even have one of the plugs on the end to connect the next chain on, which I'm not sure why they're allowed to make what's the use. But not only that, these lights have a strange little device on the end, have you seen these, that gives 16 different options for illuminating functions. They can do the wave, they can sparkle, they can slow glow, they can step, they can flash, they can twinkle, and on. 16 different ways to annoyingly flash on and off. Okay, they're not all totally annoying, but you know what I mean. Luckily, the great sage Brene Brown has saved me from my twinkle light Grinchhood by reframing these annoying little blinkers for me. Twinkle lights, she says, twinkle lights are the perfect metaphor for joy. Joy is not a constant. It comes to us in moments, often ordinary moments. Sometimes we miss out on the bursts of joy because we're too busy chasing down extraordinary moments. Other times, we're so afraid of the dark that we don't dare let ourselves enjoy the light. A joyful life, she writes, a joyful life is not a floodlight of joy. That would eventually become unbearable. I believe, she says, a joyful life is made up of joyful moments gracefully strung together by trust, by gratitude, inspiration, by faith. Times we're so afraid of the dark, we don't dare let ourselves enjoy the light. On Wednesday, as my blood boiled and tears came to my eyes listening to the oral arguments before the Supreme Court about the case that in all likelihood will result in the overturning of Roe v. Wade, as I tasted that acrid adrenaline building up from my own sense of impotent rage over the politics that put the people on that court who are willing, eager to overturn such an important right, I just about crossed my arms and walked away from this whole month's theme of opening to joy. Joy, bah. How can we talk about joy when the high court of the land is making, to use Justice Sotomayor's eloquent word, such a stench? How can we talk about joy when the arrogantly unequal distribution of vaccinations around the world has created the context for COVID variations to flourish, and now Omicron looms ominously as the next bleak hurdle in our already weary pandemic path? How can we talk about joy when we're still unable to trust that we can safely sing together? Not to mention the holiday lights with all the blinking on and off, and no plug on the end. Laughing all the way, that was Tuesday's sermon title. On Wednesday, this sermon would be titled, Bah Humbug. But I've been thinking about that quote, the one that Linda just mentioned, that Joe shared last week from Father Richard Rohr, his eloquent summation that pain that is not transformed gets transmitted. Henry's learning how to read right now. He actually just finished reading his first beginner learning I can read it all by myself book all the way front to cover yesterday in the car. Oh yes. Joy amidst the bah humbug. And he's discovering, because he's learning to read, that words that might be worth reading are everywhere. Like on my t-shirt. I wasn't really even aware of it. when he started reading. If you have more than you need, build a bigger table, not a higher wall. After we got through the bizarrely confusing silent GH and higher, the bigger confusion struck. Why not a higher wall, Papa? And so I was suddenly and surprisingly talking about global inequality with my 6-year-old, trying to share about the challenging truth that we have so much more than we need while others have so much less, without inducing inappropriate shame or guilt. Pain that is not transformed gets transmitted. And then we're lighting the Hanukkah candles. And do you know how many Jewish holidays are at least implicitly, if not explicitly and wholeheartedly, about transmitting the pain of prior generations? Have you ever been to a Seder? But Hanukkah really, it is a story of a people surviving a trauma. Passing down the story is, in fact, a part of transforming the pain, telling the story of what it means to survive, to become a resilient people, to find hope in the darkest of times, to find hope after tragedy. Yes, the temple was ransacked, our holy place desecrated by those who wished that we would seek to exist. But in the darkest time, a miracle happened. The people survived and rebuilt, and countless generations later still light candles to remember. We know that many of us in this holiday season of so many holidays, are reminded of traumatic memories. All the glitz and the glamour of the holidays, all the commercialism and nonstop Christmas pop. I think in part it's an attempt to anesthetize ourselves. Holiday cheer as a means to anesthetize. Do you know what I'm talking about? You can celebrate the holidays that way. I've done it. Lights, music, drinks, shopping, endless opportunities for sugar and fat. The blur of the holidays passes swiftly by. An attempt to eradicate any bit of darkness with that floodlight of joy. No, this is not what a joyful life is about. Joy is not about a pursuit of endless life, an endless light, but about being comfortable enough in the dark to notice the magic. Being comfortable enough in the dark to notice the magic when the lights twinkle on. It's finding a precious opportunity in a surprising moment of parenting. To remember that celebrating these winter holidays is an opportunity to reopen my heart to the world, to turn toward the suffering, the bleakness, the pain, and attempt once again to try to love the places where it hurts. This kind of opening to joy, it's not the pursuit of happiness. It's not about going after something out there. It doesn't come in Amazon packages. Instead, it requires noticing that which gets in the way. Noticing the plaque that builds around our spirits and becoming willing to let it go. The trauma that keeps us walled off from the joy trying to get in. Sometimes it takes a lifetime to heal. Sometimes several, right? Generation to generation, we transmit and transform, little by little, turning a story of desecration into one of resilience and survival. Until the tale of a war is a faded background memory amidst the joyful dancing of the hora, spinning dreidels, great greasy latkes, and shimmering candles. There's a quiet patience in this kind of joy, a quiet patience, a joy that's not anxious in the waiting. The great German author Hermann Hesse talked about it like this. He said, the high value put on every minute of time, the idea of hurry, hurry as the most important objective of living. And remember, this was decades ago. The high value put on every minute of time is unquestionably the most dangerous enemy of joy. Waiting, that patient waiting, it is the theme of the Christian story this time of the year. And on this Advent Sunday, the Gospel of Luke tells of Mary, stunned after the visit of the angel Gabriel to let her know that she's pregnant with God's baby. Still, that scene always blows me away, imagining. Stunned Mary, she's now traveling to visit her cousin Elizabeth, who's also pregnant. And when Mary arrives, practically the first thing that Elizabeth says is this: as soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leaped for joy. As soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leaped for joy. It's a very human moment in between otherworldly proclamations of faith and prophetic exclamations about who this child's going to become. As soon as I heard your voice, dear cousin, as soon as I saw you and found out that we're both having babies right at the same time, I could feel the child in my womb leap for joy. Despite the terrible politics of the day, despite the empire out there trying to crush our people, I could feel the child within me leaping for joy. So I thought about this a lot. I'm not going to try to get into whether a child leaping in the womb demonstrates anything about fetal viability. But boy, we are about to have a fight on our hands, aren't we? But right now we're in the waiting. The work of generations of women and their allies. Pain that has been slowly and painstakingly under transformation, generation by generation. Wounds in so many lives, so many families waiting to be ripped open. I want to learn how to hold this waiting with that same quiet patience. To hold it right there together with the joy that is not anxious in the waiting. I want to learn how to fuel my yearning for justice with the miraculous light of Hanukkah, with the impossible hope of Christmas. And somehow I think there's a lesson in the waiting, of learning to trust in the moments of darkness, even when they seem to stretch out endlessly into a dismal future, to learn to trust that we can hold still and dwell, even in the pain. To trust that we can hold still and dwell in the pain, that it won't overwhelm us, won't stop us from taking the next lighted step, that no pain is too great to be transformed with enough patience and determination. People look east. The time is near of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able, trim the hearth and set the table. People look east and sing today. Love, the guest, is on the way. Henry and I have started talking about going to buy a Lego set this week. Not for him, but to donate to the Marin Community Clinic's toy drive. I invite you to join me if you want. You can drop them off here next Sunday, and I'll take them over to the Marin Community Clinic's new toys wrapped. And it was one of the examples that we talked about having more than we need, how many Lego sets he has, and how some kids don't have any. And we'll buy a Lego set together. I think it might be hard to go to the store and buy a toy to give away, to have to wait until another day to buy one for himself. But I also think it might be joyful to imagine sharing his love of Legos with another kid he'll never meet. Love the guest is on the way. A blessing to close, a blessing by Reverend Jan Richardson for joy, for joy. You can prepare, but still it will come to you by surprise. Crossing through your doorway, calling your name in greeting, turning like a child who quickens suddenly within you. It will astonish you how wide your heart will open in welcome. How wide your heart will open in welcome for the joy that finds you so ready and still so unprepared. So ready and still so unprepared. Amen, and blessed be.